Yeah. All right. So welcome to Remix EQ Live, amplifying equity with a mix of inspiration, information, and interviews. I am your host, Dr. Erika Tate, and I'm coming to you live from Savannah, Georgia, where I live. This show is the launch. It is the beginning of what I know will be an amazing opportunity for us to connect and build community around the equity work being performed across the country and across our world. As someone who designs and studies learning experiences, I pretty much consider every moment a chance to learn and grow. And as they say in church, when one or two are gathered in his name, well, I believe that when one or two or how many are gathered in a room or digital space, we can absolutely learn from each other. So, with that said, please drop a hello, a howdy, a what's up, a hey girl, hey in the comments and let me know where you are joining me from. All right, I'm looking forward to connecting with people all over. I'm so excited for the chance to connect in real time with interaction. So I appreciate you all being here and joining me. All right. So, for this inaugural show, I promised that I would share my why. And not just because I needed to justify why I woke up one day and was like, woo, let me do a live stream show. It's going to be awesome. And by the way, side note, if you are like me and you often wake up and start your day with a let me do this or oh, I'm going to try this, don't worry, it's a perfectly legit way for making life choices and planning next steps. So I really love my life. Oh, look here, people coming in. All right, hello, George Mitchell from Philadelphia. Hey, Dr. Dean Ehrlichs from Denver, snowy Denver. Yes, yes. Hey, Dr. Shelley. Oh my goodness, yes. It's not snowy here in Savannah, Georgia, but it's definitely colder than my soul desires. It's great to see you guys and thank you so much for joining. So the reason that I really wanted to share my why is because for those of you who are like me, who do work in this equity space, whether you're a DEI executive or consultant or a teacher who is enacting a social justice pedagogy in their classroom, whether you're a social justice or a social worker who is uplifting their community with resources that have been denied to members over generations, or you're a content creator who tells the stories of those who can't, whatever equity work that you perform, that you know that if you are not clear about your intentions or what informs your approach, your lens, your language, your actions, then you run the risk of not making the impact that's required or being misaligned with the needs and desires of the communities that you are in service to, and adding to the frustration, anger, and disappointment to a space that is already so emotionally charged and intense due to generations of hurt and pain. So it's not enough for us to talk about what the work is and how we're doing the work. We need to share the why and why we are doing it in a particular way. So, on this show and in future episodes, I'm so excited about future episodes. Guests will describe and share examples of their equity work in their field, in the communities, but they will also share their why they came to do this work and why they do it in a particular way. So, I just rattled off a couple of ways that people do equity work or perform equity work in their communities. But please drop in the chat ways that you are doing equity work. So you could share your job title just to give us a sense of the type of work that you're doing. You could share those descriptors that you use to describe yourself in your LinkedIn profile. I absolutely love those. You could definitely just type up a quick description or tagline. Which is like representative of what you say to people when you explain your work. So go ahead and drop those in the comments so I can see a bit of the work that you guys are doing in your communities. Great. All right. As those are coming in, um, one of the things that I wanted to talk about and sharing my why for doing this program was I wanted to talk about pathways. So wherever you are in your career, if it's what you're doing now that engages you in work that's advancing equity, or where you want to be, because I definitely support those aspirational titles or descriptors. I'm very curious about your pathway and what it looked like. All right. You want to do so? Here we go. So I'm curious about which shape best describes your pathway to your current role or current calling. All right. So George Mitchell. Oh, creating space. So George Mitchell is creating space for and leading DEI conversations and initiatives. Ooh, for instructional design teams in the higher education world. Awesome. I love that. Yes, these are important conversations to have, especially as our higher education system has changed a bit in terms of accessing it and accessing it from different places. So I'm glad that you were in this work and leading those conversations because they have a huge impact on what this space of higher ed is going to look like in the future. Thank you. All right. So some of the paths that you might be on. So you might be one of those full circle people. You're like, I started and I came back to the work renewed and full of joy and fulfillment. All right. So you're like full circle, everything you've done in your life, in your career, and with regard to your passions has led you right back to the start. You might be someone who is moving upward. So you already have that goal and you're like, yes, I'm climbing to the top. I'm rising to the top. All right, that might be you. And you're just taking those steps to get there, moving each way. And then hopefully you're getting closer to where you want to be and the impact that you want to make on your community. Some of you might be spiraling. And by spiraling, I do not mean spiraling into a pit of despair. I mean spiraling in that each time you do a different experience, each time you visit a certain type of work or a certain space that you are going deeper and you're developing this like rich, robust understanding of the people or the information that you are engaged in and doing the work. So it's that deepness. So oftentimes in the educational space, we think, yes, our instruction, our curriculum is strong when we are able to have students connect to ideas over and over again. But each time they connect to them, they go deeper. All right. So you might be, that might be your path. That might be your shape. Some of you might be the winding road. So you're like, whoa, I did this, I did this, I did this. And you're still moving, but you just have some twists and turns along the way. And then some of you might be other. So you have just done everything. And so it could be like a hot mess, or it could be just a space that's full of bliss. But these are different ways that we have gotten to where we are. And it makes a difference for how we feel about the work that we do and how we feel about the journey that we are on. So thank you. And as you guys like see this, drop it in. I'm always curious about people's pathways and careers. It's just like something that I just have an interest in. So feel free to drop it in the chat. And as it comes in, I'll make sure to share it and bring it to the light. All right. Um, so for me, my pathway has been pretty much a winding road. I've always felt that I was moving forward in terms of my journey because I think that every decision that I've made has really been to do work or to try to do work in ways that contribute to the greater good. And also because for me, and this is something that was just always been important to me as a lifelong learner, is that the work that I do and in the spaces that I do this work really are contributing to my growth. Right. And so it could be personal in that I had the opportunity to make connections with people, make connections with communities that make me feel fulfilled and supported and nurtured and poured into. It could be intellectual. Like I love learning about new methodologies and approaches and different ways to have conversations or facilitate conversations. And so really pushing my practice, pushing me forward so that I can do the best at the work that I want to do, make the impact that I want to do. Make in this world, and also emotional. And so, I can only speak for myself, but often the work that I do in equity space concerns communities in which I am a part of, right? And so that work is emotional, that work is hard, that work can be hurtful, that work can be hopeful, but it is a lot of emotions. And I think as I've aged and as I've matured and as I've brought that to the work that I've done, I've had this opportunity to really grow in this space and think about ways to honor the emotions that are there, but also use those emotions to propel us forward. But most importantly, for me, this work, this winding road has definitely been driven by joy. I am like someone who has to be happy in the work that I'm doing and happy in anything that I'm doing. I think probably since I was a young child, it's just a driver for me. My Twitter handle is at happy in my soul. So if that gives you a sense of like how much that matters, there you go. And it's because my soul for me is like everything, right? It's my compass when I'm making decisions. It helps me think, oh my goodness, this is a really great idea. Or it can be like my canary in a mine where I'm like reading the room, or I'm planning escapes from situations in which my soul is not as happy as I need it to be. Because when I'm happy, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. You make my soul smile, right? And when I am not in situations that are not, I'm like, oh, my soul is turning a dark, dark black. All right. So my soul has definitely been something that has led the way. And so it's important that on this journey, on this winding road that I've been on, that I've kept that front and center in the work that I do. But the other thing, the other feature about my pathway that has been important is that it has been full of discoveries. The reason I have all these twists and turns is because I kept discovering things that I did not know, which is what makes life beautiful. And I think about when I was in high school and my mom worked for the FAA, for the Federal Aviation Administration, and she used to come home and talk to me about being an engineer, about these engineers that she worked with. And I would be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And she's like, maybe you should pursue that because you like math and science, you're good at it. And so go research it. So, I'd go to the library and go to the reference section where you can't check out the book. So you have to read it because this is before Google, right? And take my notes. And I learned about this career and I was like, sure, I'll do this. I found this camp in Tennessee it was sponsored by the National Science Foundation, and it brought kids of color and girls into the university to learn more about engineering. I mean, I was kind of actually getting out of like yard work in hot Georgia summers, but it worked out. So I went there and I learned about different ways of engineering. I learned about computer science, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll go to college for this. And so I go to college, and I ended up going to Brown because my friend's mom was like, you should try out these Ivies. I think they would be a good fit for you. So I do my research on the dial-up internet because we can now research from home very slowly, and I figure out, I learn about the institution. I submit my application. I get on the telephone and I talk to somebody who's been there, and I decide I'm just going to go sight unseen, because in my 17-year-old mind, there's no difference between Providence, Rhode Island, and Warner Robins, Georgia. I was just like, yes, let me do this. And so in those experiences, I kept discovering new things about myself and new things about my future. My roommate started applying for doctoral programs, and I didn't know that you could get your PhD right after school. I thought you had to be like 50 or something and work for many years before you went to pursue it. And so I thought, that's an idea. Interesting. I went to work. I ended up working in a place in which my soul did not shine bright. So I found another job. I discovered university. I discovered a graduate program in which you design curriculum for students. And that's a job and that's a career. And I did that. And I learned about that. And I learned that you not only can you design it, but you can design it in pursuit of social justice. And so then I began to work in my community in Richmond, California, as a community advocate in terms of improving conditions for asthma, improving the environmental health of the community. And I discovered that there are consultants who help communities to achieve more environmental justice or to advance equity in whatever ways are necessary. And I was like, I can be a consultant who works to advance social justice, and this could be my job. This could be my business. And so it's important that those discoveries happened along the way that made my journey windy, but it also made my journey rich. And that's what I want this show to be. I want this show to be for you an opportunity to make discovery after discovery about different purposes, different practices, different possibilities for doing this type of work. So when you hear my guests come on the show and talk about what they do and why they do it, what they've learned, this knowledge, right, can shape your pathway. And whether you're trying to go on a steeper slope, right, and get to your goal more efficiently or get to a higher goal, or you just want a few more twists and turns in your journey, this show can provide you examples and informations, connections, and community to really help you do this work to advance equity in ways that are not only good for the communities that you're serving, but also feel good for yourself. So if you want to spend every second and fourth Friday with me and my guests, please tune in to Remix EQ Live, where we will definitely be dropping knowledge and inspiration. So I'm excited for you guys to participate. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of this why was platform, right? And so for me, the why has to do with platform. When we talk about equity work in our spaces, so I think like when George is saying, when you're leading these conversations, right, with your team of instructional designers, right, I'm sure that voice comes up, right? Voice is a topic, right? So we discuss voice. We want to hear the voice of the people, all right? We want to hear the voice of the marginalized. We want to hear the voice of the silenced, the voice of the ignored. And so much of the work that we do in communities, university settings, schools, corporate offices, right, are done to amplify these voices, to figure out needs, desires, dreams, and to put them on blast, right? Hey, Alina, my soul is happy that you are here. So when I think about this, and I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself, and I can invite you to determine if you share these experiences, or if you consider them similar or very different. But as a Black woman who has many other identities, I think about my voice in these spaces. So the work that I do through my business, Blue Knowledge, really centers around amplifying voices in communities of color. And data and design, like those are my tools. Those are my superpowers. Right? If you want to think of like your tool set when you're doing this work. So those are mine. And so what it might look like is that I evaluate a program by asking participants about their experiences and kind of determine if these experiences are helping them progress toward the goals of the program. Or I might conduct a needs assessment in a community or in a school, or do other types of research like interviews or surveys to better understand experiences, perceptions, outcomes, perceived outcomes of community members. Or I might coach a teacher, right, to say you must consistently elicit students' ideas, right? Those ideas are their voice in multiple formats, so that you can design instruction that really meets their needs. Right. And so I am pretty unapologetic about the energy and the passion, and the high quality that I bring to my work. Like, I want to advance equity, and I want to use all my tools and superpowers to do so. But when it comes to time for me to talk about my work, to talk about my successes, my learnings, I'm always having this conversation with myself, taking up this time, and I'm like talking to myself, and I say, hey, Erika Tate, because I call myself by my full name when I'm talking to myself, because I gotta like make sure I'm paying attention because I have things to say. But I'm like, Erika Tate, you have to share the work that you're doing so people can know that you're good at it and know that you love it. Right. Or Erika Tate, you need to talk about this project, even if you're still in the middle of it and you're not done, because what you've learned so far and what you've done, right, and what you know to this point can change the thought work that's happening. Or Erika Tate, you need to post about these challenges that you are facing, even if you haven't overcome them yet, because they haven't taken you out. And that's a thing. That's success, right? And Erika Tate, do you need to make more videos? Erika Tate, do you need to produce and host a live stream show? And the answer is yes, I absolutely do. Because if we don't see others who we relate to, who we connect to, talking about the things that matter to them, then we don't finish the conversation that we have with ourselves, and we don't step up to share what matters to us. And so this show, it's not just about me like putting myself out there and saying, use your voice for good, Erika Tate. It's about creating a platform for others to give voice to the equity work that they are doing, that they are performing, amplifying the voices of the communities that they are in service to. It is to put on blast their why, their person. So we as a community of equity workers can stay informed and inspired to continue the equity work that we have chosen to do or that we feel called to do. All right. Yay! I love it. So some of the names that come up, LinkedIn user. Love that career that you've chosen and your passion for it. Oh my gosh, yes. Like, I mean, if you can't tell, right? And then yes, I think that data and design are great superpowers, but I am always up to learning about other people's superpowers in this space. So please feel free to drop them in and let me know what they are, because I'm excited to learn about them. All right, so I just want to close out the show by sharing with you what I'm truly excited about. Really is our first set of guests that are coming to the stage soon. And so I want to bring it up. I want to show you guys. I can do it. I think this is working. I think it's coming. Yes. All right. Perfect. So this show, the premise of it is that we're remixing professionals, right? We're bringing together two professionals that are in similar fields, but are approaching the work in different ways. So this way we get different examples. This way we get a different taste of superpowers that are necessary for doing this work. And then we just really get a double dose of inspiration, which is what is necessary for us to lead this work. And we know this in our souls that we need to keep that inspiration and that fire burning so that we can make those changes. And so this season, we are going to touch a variety of topics. So we're going to think about philanthropy. So I have Dr. Angela DeBarger. She's an education program officer at the Hewlett Foundation and really thinks about the equity in that spaces through open education resources and other resources that can be provided to schools and teachers and leaders and families and communities. And we have Tez Merlina Aspeja. She is a senior program officer with the Wellspring Philanthropic Fund, and she has a portfolio that centers around violence prevention of women and girls and protection of their reproductive rights. And so I just think figuring out and learning from them how they are fostering equity, fostering justice in their space by supporting programs, supporting projects that want to do this work. This next one hits close to home. I'm very excited. So I have two guests from Savannah, Georgia, where I live, who will be talking to us about economic empowerment. And so we will be in conversation about that. I love showcasing a local community because I think it reminds us that there are nuances and specifics that we need to pay attention to, but also there are things that we can take and adapt or make available to the communities that we're serving in appropriate ways. And so we have Licia Johnson, who's the executive director of Step Up Savannah, which is our anti-positive and anti-poverty initiative here in Savannah. And we have Nita Penn, who is the director of Women's Business Center in Savannah, the Savannah region. And this conversation is going to help us think about increasing economic mobility of women and their families through service, through advocacy, and through entrepreneurship. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Yes. And then we're also going to I'm going to dip my toe into the field of medicine, but these wonderful women have been doing this for decades. And so we have Kathleen Magnon, who is a nurse practitioner and a researcher, and she has really bringing to us now. She has a new role, which I'm super excited about, as a medical affairs executive director, and really thinking about the ways that we can bring equity into our medical spaces, our clinical trial spaces. And Dr. Kathy Anderson, who's a pediatrician and integrative medicine physician, and thinking and talking with her about ways that we can have more culturally safe practices in our clinical practices so that we can support all our children to be safe and to be well. And then finally, of course, we hit up my field, education. And I'm so excited because we're going to talk about it in different ways, but we have Vanola Mason, who is an associate partner at the International Center for Leadership and Education. And she is going to talk to us about how she builds partnership with schools so that she can advance educational equity. And Michael O'Neill, who's from Savannah. So I have a lot of Savannah shout outs. So there's such good work going on here. And he has been working with his wife, Janelle, and his team for over 20 years co-designing learning experiences for parents and families in Savannah and beyond. And so I just think that this is the beginning of a lineup that I think is going to inspire, that is going to make us whoop, whoop, get out of bed and do the work that we do. So please, please, please tune in. And join me in these conversations, because not only the conversation that's happening on the, I was going to say big screen, but it can be any size screen depending on your device. Not only is that going to be rich, but the conversations that are happening in the chat and that will happen in the chat will also be wonderful. And also, if you know of someone that is doing great work or innovative work in this space, and this can include you, please feel invited, feel supported, and welcome to reach out to me via the comments or direct messaging, because this is a launch, right? This is the first of many, many episodes for us. And so please, please let me know, because I am happy to make new connections. I'm happy to bring them into the community that is here so that we can do this work. Yes. So checking the comments just to see if there's things that people are saying. Yes. See, I'm just going to show a few things. All right. I love it. I love it. So 1000%. I love large percentages. Speak up for equity and amplifying their voices. Yes, we cannot have enough discussion about this. But it's great to be able to do it in ways that are really edifying to those who are doing the work. Perfect. Yes, I do. I think this is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for what it's going to bring. Thank you, George. Thank you for your interaction. I hope to see you every second and fourth Friday of the month here on LinkedIn, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So it gives us a little bit of a mix of the day. I'm excited for you guys to share with me and honoring the great work that is being done across our world. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for your interaction. My name is Dr. Erika Tate. I am your host of Remix EQ Live. Have a great, great day.